All right, as mentioned in the meditation, my title for the lesson today is A Pebble in a Pond. Our annual theme is engaging, embracing, and embodying the divine. And the way I look at that is engaging is sort of like a handshake, meeting the divine. Embracing is giving the divine a hug, bringing it closer to myself, and embodying being as the divine. So engaging, embracing, and embodying. This is the book that we're reading for the first 2 months, As We Think, So We Are. James Allen, the author, the original author, was alive before our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, created The Science of Mind. And the author, Ruth L. Miller, actually has made more contemporary 3 of James Allen's books. And they are, of course, in perfect alignment because there was a trend happening that led to Dr. Ernest Holmes creating The Science of Mind. As we think, so we are. Now, before I get started in my lesson, I'm going to ask Alani to turn on the ripples video. There's not going to be any audio, and I'm going to continue doing my lesson, but what I would like you to do is watch the video. It's about 5 minutes long, and observe the ripples. And then we will come back and I will ask you what you have observed about the ripples from this video. Okay? So this lesson title, A Pebble in a Pond, came from talking with several people here, other people, as well as reading online articles and comments from people. If you're watching the news, there's lots going on. Yes? Whether you're happy about it, neutral about it, or unhappy about it, it is a lot to swallow, yes? And to some, it may feel like chaos. We're not meant to eat a whole apple at once. And it used to be before the internet that we had a newspaper. Maybe we subscribed to certain newspapers, and that we would read the news once a day. And of course, it was printed, so it took time, so it was a snapshot in time. And what we get today is news all day long. And it can literally make you sick. So, today is for us to talk a little bit about the skills and the tools, and I should say spiritual skills and spiritual tools that we need today based on the onslaught of news. Some of that may begin with discipline, as in devote the same amount of time reading the news as you do the same amount of time doing a spiritual practice. I gotta say, when I asked myself, do I do as much spiritual practice as reading the news? Uh-oh. Not in balance. And I have apps on my phone, and of course, I have certain apps that give me notifications of the headlines from different perspectives, right? So that I can get a bigger view. But I also have mindfulness apps, Calm, Insight Timer, mindfulness. And I do have notifications, but not as many as the news notifications. I need to fix that. Based on the news, you may find yourself reacting, resisting, or perhaps responding. But what I've heard and what hurts me the most is listening to people make themselves a victim of the news. So I want to talk a little bit about that today, because what you give power to has power over you. But that's a choice, what you give power to. Rise up. So what do we do to consciously focus and become aware, choosing to read what we read and how long, and then balancing that with maybe affirmations, music that lifts us, spiritual mind treatment, our form of prayer, a balance is important. And your power is the power to choose those thoughts wisely. What does the news want to sell you? Fear. What do mindful apps want to sell you? Peace, not panic. Be here now. Okay, great. It's still going. So the news is trying to, at this point in time, based on, again, if you allow it and are open to it, the news is trying to have you swallow the whole apple at once. If I have an apple right here and I ask you to eat it, tell me how you eat it. One bite at a time, slicing it up into smaller pieces so that you can get your mouth around it. It's true of the news too. They want to inundate you, but don't swallow the whole elephant. It does take work to to use the discipline to decide this is my choice about how I'm going to consume, when I'm going to consume, and how much I'm going to consume. So these are very fruitful times to engage in more spiritual practice, yes? What do you notice about the ripples? Okay, so a pebble in a pond drops and you're watching the ripples and the waves, so the water going up and down. And then it hits the edges, and then what happens? It bounces back to you. Unless there are obstacles. And then if there are obstacles, what happens to the ripples? Yes, not completely if you're in a pond. They intersect, and then parts of the wave will continue to go around the obstruction, right? Yeah. Okay, yes. So when it bounces off the edges, it always comes back. It reflects back to you. And what somebody puts out and what reflects back to them is none of my business. Understand what I'm saying? Yes. Ripple is constant expansion. Mm-hmm. What else did you notice? The size of what's dropped in makes a difference on the wave. Okay, how quickly it's dropped. When two things are dropped, again, the intersections happen, but they don't consume each other. The ripple still moves on. The ripples affect each other, intersect. Mm-hmm. Yes? Yes. Very good. And I called that diffusion, because instead of the wave bouncing back, you've got a whole bunch of different waves diffused. I just want to say a note to the design team. That's how the acoustic tiles are going to work in the foyer. All right. You may continue to think about or see those ripples. You are each a pebble in the pond. Do not diminish your power. You do make a difference. Ilani, will you give me the first slide? This was by a rabbi who created this prayer to say before you read the news. So I'll read it just so everybody sees it. My God, the soul you have placed in me is pure and vulnerable. I'm afraid that looking at today's news will be painful. Encircle me in a robe of light so that I can witness the wounds of the world without being wounded myself. Let me learn what I need to know in order to be of the greatest use, without being overwhelmed by despair. I feel your protective light now as I open myself to the world's suffering and the world's joys. Beautiful. You all feel like you need that posted like right before every news app notification? Protect myself, but yet be aware. Next slide. This says the human eye can see frequencies between 430 and 770 terahertz. Somebody's very familiar with frequencies here. While our ears detect sounds in the frequency of 20 hertz to 20,000 kilohertz, 20,000 hertz. These ranges represent only a small portion of the entire spectrum of sound and light, infrared, microwave, X-ray, meaning that there's much happening around us that we can't see or hear. How does that apply to you being a pebble in the pond? Thoughts are things. Words have power. You make a difference based on your thoughts, your prayers, your intentions, and your soul's purpose for being here. Do you know why you're here? I know I'm called to inspire, and that's why I'm doing this lesson. Now, for those of you that know me, I do lessons regularly, but I know that's part of my purpose. I am sure there are things that you love to do, and whatever you love to do is part of your purpose of being here. You can't see the wind, but you see its effects. You don't see love, but you feel its effects. You don't see your thoughts, but they are rippling. Choose wisely. If you don't like what's going on nationally, you have to begin with you choosing your thoughts, your values, and what you want to see in the world, which means you have to be a leader of yourself. Again, that takes work. It's a lot easier to just let the iPhone keep telling me what's happening in the news and just going along with it. So we need to become conscious and aware of what we are consuming and then choose wisely an affirmation, a word, or the value that we want to see in the world. Because every word, every thought, every prayer is a ripple like a pebble in the pond. It may not make the news, but it makes a difference. We're reading the book, As We Think, So We Are, and on page 26 it says, cherish your visions, cherish your ideals. Dreams are seedlings of realities. If you want to engage, embrace, and embody the divine, then it begins with your words and how you speak to yourself. Now, I've had periods in my life where I talk to myself in the mirror, but I haven't done it recently. And then I realized, for engaging, embracing, and embodying, hi, blessed soul. Hello, beloved. Choose your words. Choose how you see yourself as the divine. And then use those words to allow the ripple. I'm going to jump to a part that fits more perfectly here. Many of you know Dr. Masaru Emoto, who demonstrated that he wrapped words around water and then froze it and you could see. He says water has a memory and carries within it our thoughts and prayers, because again, they're vibrations. We know that the water is vibrating. As you yourself are mostly water, no matter where you are, your prayers will be carried out to the rest of the world. You don't see your ripple, but it's there. So Einstein said, logic will get you from point A to point B, but imagination will take you everywhere. So we need to practice our imagination. And I have to say that as we grow older, we are not as imaginative as when we were a child, right? Yeah. Well, yeah, some of us may not, huh? Still child at heart, Alan, I know. Yes, use your imagination for what you would like to see in the world. Let it ripple out. So this book is inspirational and empowering. It causes reflection and contemplation on the words we choose, the beliefs we hold, the attitudes that we hold. If we truly understand the deep power that our words have, we won't waste time using our 6,500 thoughts per day. If you didn't see Reverend Eileen's lesson last week, you need to go back and see it because it's a good one. Don't waste time using our 6,500 thoughts per day on stuff we don't want. Watching the news may trigger you, but then the question is, and so what spiritual practice are you doing after that trigger? Some people say the best defense is offense. What would you want to see in the world? Think on that. Be that. You want more compassion, more diversity, more inclusivity, more equality? Imagine. Find a way to imagine a more compassionate, equitable, diverse, and inclusive world. And I have to say, of course, I was looking in the mirror and said, when you look around the room, we are not very diverse. That is something that I am planting a seed into the universe. Because the new people that I do talk to, they don't say it this way, but it's, where have you been all my life? I think I might have told you last time that one person actually put into ChatGPT, into AI, what they wanted to see in a spiritual community, and we showed up. Right here, right now, in this community, we have a choice to collaborate with each other on what we want to see rippled out in the world. And next week's the annual meeting, so come back with your thoughts and ideas about that. But again, don't diminish, based on what you see or hear in the world, your own power. Mother Teresa said, not all of us can do great things, but we can all do small things with great love. Again, you won't see it on the news. That doesn't mean it's not there. Next slide. So on the left is the 100th monkey effect. Some of you have heard of that before. It's often cited as an example of morphic resonance. What does that mean? It suggests that when a critical mass of individuals, like the 100th monkey, learns a new behavior, it can suddenly spread to other populations without direct contact, which aligns with the content of a collective morphic field, quantum field, proposed by the biologist Rupert Sheldrake, where knowledge can be shared across space and time through the field. And of course, this graphic sticks with me all the time, thinking about when a light walks into the darkness, what happens? And based on what Dr. Emoto talked about, if you are doing your spiritual practice and if you are reminding yourself of the values and the things that you stand for, engaging, embracing, and embodying the divine, then when you walk around, that's what happens. I for myself had to say to myself, I don't pay attention every minute to what my body is doing. My heart is beating, I'm breathing, circulatory systems are happening, the nervous, it's just all happening and I'm not thinking about it. But as we place that pebble in the pond, that becomes a part of our vibration. Ernest Holmes said, "Those that have great faith have great power." Have faith that while you may not see it, good is happening. All of humanity wouldn't have gotten this far if that weren't true. Be grateful for what is good in your life because the news isn't going to tell you that. So many blessings for each of us to be here right now, today, as we are. Next slide. The path should be obvious by now. We start with self. We start with self and separate from all the disempowering beliefs and ideology. To realize an empowered collective, first we empower ourselves, and once we become self-realized, self-empowered, and self-activated, we create for ourselves a multiplicity of lighthouses that serve as a beacon to activate one another. The ripple effects created by this sends shockwaves through the collective, igniting hearts and minds of everyone who chooses to walk in the light. And there are many people out there who want to walk in the light that may not have spiritual practices or a spiritual community, but they still know what they want. They still know where the light is. They still know where the goodness is. And you can help to highlight that by doing your spiritual practice. You are the power. It starts with you, like a pebble in the pond. Now, I know that what I've said is easy to say. How do we actually engage, embrace, and embody today? For me to remember this, I need a good song. Anybody relate? To remind me of the essence of this message, to rise up. So you may want to watch, or you may want to choose to close your eyes and take it in to embody the message. Rise Up by Andre Day.